All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins. This team on paper is just absolutely loaded. And I actually saw something in the sports news world the other day saying the Dolphins are no longer a dark horse to win the Super Bowl. They're a legitimate horse. And I read it and I'm like, you're 100% right. We've been actually talking about this for a couple of months now. If you have a healthy Dolphins team on paper, this team is absolutely loaded. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. But just like, I don't know what it is. I actually genuinely don't know what it is. The Dolphins last season were 8-3 at one point, right? They went on a huge losing streak, losing a game to San Francisco, a close loss to the Chargers. You lost to Buffalo in a close game, lost to Green Bay in a close game. Tua goes down, you lose to New England, but you get that last week win against the Jets, and you finish 9-8. So all things considered, I think it was a really solid year, because you have to factor in injuries and midseason adjustments and acquisitions, obviously. But the Dolphins team is really talented. All right. I like a lot of the moves they've been making recently. We take a look at Bradley Chubb. We take a look at Jalen Ramsey. I also think defensively, speaking of defense in general, last year they were ranked 24th in total defense. That's not going to get the job done at all. But when you take a look at the roster, you're like, oh my freaking goodness. Oh my goodness. The Dolphins defense will be nowhere close ranked 24th in the league next season. It won't even be close. Okay, I'd be surprised if they were at worst 16th total defense next season. Keep in mind, man, when you're missing your starting quarterback for a handful of games, that's also going to factor in, because if your backup QB is in, you're not going to have long sustained drives most likely, which means your defense is going to be on the field for a lot more often than usual, which means they're going to give up more points. They're going to give up more stats. So even just looking at the Dolphins defense statistically, I feel like it's kind of worthless here. Before we get any further into today's video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit the like button, hit that sub button. Dolphins fans, if we get this video to 50 likes, that would mean the world to me. I haven't made too many Dolphins content on this channel actually because of copyright, but we're just saying, screw it, man. We're just going to do our thing here. I love the Dolphins. I live here in Southwest Florida, and I want to talk Dolphins. So I appreciate all the love, and feel free to leave some comments down below. One thing that really was interesting to me was Michael Vick recently went on Tyreek Hill's podcast, and he just kind of encouraged Tua to bulk up, avoid hits, with all these injuries coming up here. And that's relatively obvious, but I think one thing that goes under the radar is how good of a season Tua had before he got injured last year. There were retirement talks. There were all of these types of talks going on at the end of the season for the Dolphins. And it just was based around Tua, obviously, because he's the star player. He's the franchise player. He's a guy you want to build around. But if we just take things at face value, just look at statistics, in only 13 games last season, Tua threw for almost 4,000 passing yards. He had 25 touchdowns. He only had 8 interceptions. We take a look at the receiving core. We're looking like Tyreek Hill, 1,700 yards in 17 games. If you're not good at math like myself, he had over 100 yards receiving per game. I don't need to explain how much of a superstar Tyreek Hill is, or at least a star Tyreek Hill is. Jalen Waddle. This is one of, if not the best 1-2 duo receiving core-wise in the entire National Football League. Jalen Waddle is a freaking stud. Before I made this video, I saw a report, the headline, I didn't even read the article. The article's title was teams had a problem guarding Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle last year. I look at the headline, I'm like, well, yeah, it's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Yeah, you're going to have some difficulties guarding those two cats. Combined, they had over 3,000 receiving yards, which is just insane. But in general, Jalen Waddle, as far as future trajectory goes, in his rookie season, over 1,000 receiving yards. This past season, in his sophomore campaign, 1,350 receiving yards. That equates to 18.1 yards per reception on just 75 catches, or just 75 catches. You get the point here. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill is one of the best duos in the entire National Football League, and Tua is one of the most enticing, young, talented QBs in the entire league. I really like what the coach drew up last season as far as trying with what you had to keep Tua upright, all right? We're going to see massive improvements on the offensive line this upcoming season. Dalvin Cook or no Dalvin Cook, I honestly don't care, man. I look at the receiving room. Raheem Mostert, 891 rushing yards last season. That's 4.9 yards per carry. Jeff Wilson, in the 8 games he played for Miami after getting traded from San Francisco last year, he had 4.7 yards per carry. Like, the running unit, there's no flashy name. There's no big time, there's no Derrick Henry. There's no Dalvin Cook. I don't even know if Dalvin Cook would necessarily be in that conversation, but you get the point. Dalvin Cook or no Dalvin Cook, the running back room to me is extremely solid, and we saw with the midseason acquisition of Jeff Wilson. Nice little 1-2 punch duo, catching the ball, running the ball, whatever you want them to do, all right? We pair that with Jalen Waddle. We pair it with Tyreek Hill. We pair it with this defense that, once again, is going to be nowhere ranked statistically as they were last season. New acquisitions like Jalen Ramsey. There's this aura. There's this energy around the Miami Dolphins right now that just gets me really excited. It gets me really excited. And, you could nitpick it and you could be like, well, outside of Waddle, outside of Hill, what do they really have at the receiving room? Well, they made a couple of moves. But I want to pinpoint Cedric Wilson Jr. actually real quick. This past season with Miami, he only caught 12 passes for 136 yards. Those statistics are like, whoa, what does that do for me? The year before it with Dallas, he caught over 600 receiving yards. Or he had over 600 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. So the receiving room is not a point of concern for me. The offense is not a point of concern for me. The defense is not a point of concern for me. People are sleeping on the Miami Dolphins. Man, they're sleeping. This team was 8-3. They started the season 3-0. This was a squad heading into last year that it wasn't like, oh, can the Miami Dolphins win the Super Bowl? It was like, can the Miami Dolphins get closer to winning the Super Bowl? Well, now it's time to have the conversation where it's like, can the Miami Dolphins win the Super Bowl? And I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, well, man, if you got Tua, who has only improved since he's been in the NFL, if he continues to improve, along with your receiving core, an improved offensive line, an improved defense, you have your wide receiver duo. I'm looking at this Dolphins team. I'm looking at their roster, and I'm like, well, I don't know why anybody's not talking about them, right? Like, it's as simple as that. So Dolphins fans, NFL fans, let me know what you guys are thinking about this Dolphins team down below. As always, hit that like button, hit that sub button. But guys, most importantly, drop some comments down below. What do you see this win total at for the Miami Dolphins next season?